Okay, so good morning. Thank you all of you for being with us today. We're going to be going over the developmental budget web application, which for this session is the budget processing, which is those ones who are actually doing input into the developmental budget website. This one is for the fiscal year 2026. There are several different updates that we're going to also be reviewing today. But I would like to introduce just a few people that are here with us. So myself, my name is George Kuipers. I'm from Internal System Support. I'm sorry, I'm from the Internal System Support Unit, and we assist a lot of the applications that you deal with, such as this one and various fiscal applications here at LACOE. With me today also is Ryan Say and Nancy Gutierrez, also from Internal System Support. They're going to help facilitate any of the questions that you may have. If you do have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat. Um, and then we can try and follow up on those ones. If I do miss something, then they'll point it out to me. You can also raise your hand by using at the top of your screen with the listing, you may see an icon that says raise. So you can raise your hand to ask a question. We did mute everyone's mics, and so just bear with us and we'll unmute your mic if you do wish to ask a question. Also, we have the budgets team with us today, and it's going to be Amanda Flores and Robert Julio. Excuse me if I said that incorrectly. But they'll be going over some additional things regarding the budget process and some of the FTE or personnel updates that you will need to be aware of. Okay. All right. So to get into this, this training is for budget submitters again. So this is intended for those ones who are going to be actually doing input into the developmental budget website. If you are a budget approver, such as GPM, if you're a director or you're one of the superintendents and up, you would want to attend our budget approver training class, which is going to be Tuesday, February 3rd, or on Thursday, February 5th. Now, that doesn't mean that if you're GPM, you can't be here today. There is some useful information, but for those approvers, you would want to attend one of these others. Okay. All right, so today we're going to be looking at some different things. So one is the important dates, our workflow inside Access, logging in, different resources and help. And then we're going to get into a demonstration on the website, which includes navigating the site, updates to our non-FTE tab, how to do attachments, completing the justification forms, doing things on the forms such as exporting and importing to it using Excel, submitting the forms for approval, and additional reports that are available to you. So some important dates that you'll want to make note of is that all data on the website was captured as of November 30th. Okay, so if you were to look at any of your budget or your actuals, they would match up to what's inside of Fin as of November 30th. Also, any HCM information was also pulled as of November 30th. So that's important. If you happen to have any positions that were added or anything that was changed or any positions that were closed after November 30th, they will not be reflected inside of the budget web application. And if you do wish to close them or do other actions such as that, then you can make those updates on the site. The website was available starting on the 7th, so that was last week. So after this, if you haven't logged in yet, you would be able to log in immediately and begin working on the website. Also on the 20th is when you will want to make sure that you have submitted your budgets. If you're working with any restricted funds, that includes funds 012, 017, 018, and 12.0. If you are And then for everything else, that needs to be submitted by February 6th. And then the approvers need to have submitted everything by January 20th for approval to the budget unit. And just to help illustrate this, if we look at our workflow, in the workflow on the site, you'll see that it will proceed from in process once you actually start working on a justification form to GPM pending, to budget pending, approver 1 pending, which would be a director level or higher, and then approver 2 pending, which is a cabinet level or higher, and then fully approved. So anything that's GPM pending, which is those restricted funding, needs to be submitted by the 20th. And then everything needs to be submitted and waiting for budget's approval by the 6th of February. And then everything needs to be fully approved by February 20th. Now for this demonstration, we're going to be using a training website. So it will be under Developmental Budget stg.laco.edu. Now, if you removed the STG, then you'll actually get to our production site. If you are having any issues getting the site, please let us know. Now, an important thing to note is that in order to get to the website, you need to be connected to the LACOE VPN, or you need to be within the LACOE offices themselves. So in the past, you used to be able to get to the developmental site without having to connect to the VPN to help secure things for our cybersecurity. It's been moved behind our VPN. So you do need to connect through the VPN if you're working at a remote location. Now, if you are having any trouble with your VPN access or you don't have it, please reach out to the LACOE help desk and they'll help you set up a VPN account and then get you connected so that you can get to the site. Now, if you're going to be going to the regular developmental budget application, there are 2 ways of getting there. One is by using, again, that URL, which is developmentalbudget.laco.edu. The other would be going through Staff Portal and then clicking on the developmental budget icon. To log into the site, if you're using the direct address of developmental budget, you'll be presented with a login screen. On there, for your username, you're just going to use your last name _ first name, and your password would be your LACOE email password. If you are having trouble logging into this, please just email iss@laco.edu and then we'll assist you. And if there's anything else that you do need assistance with, please feel free to visit our resource website, that can be found at laco.edu/ISS, and you'll be logging into the employee intranet. And if you would like to see any additional training videos that we have, or reference materials, or user manuals, or even our training calendar, those can also all be found at that website. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the developmental budget demonstration now. Okay, so I just want to show you here, if you're logged into Staff Portal, you will have many different icons here, but the one that you would use to actually log in to the developmental site would be this one. Now for this demo, we're actually going to use developmental budget stg.laco.edu. Okay, so if we go to that URL, and then we'll have our login here. And what we'll wish to do is just to use our last name _ first name and then our password. For this demo, I'm going to actually use a different account, but consider it last name _ first name. And then the password that we have. Okay. And then you will log into the site. Now, the first screen that you're going to be presented with when you log in is jumping you right into the budget justification forms. But before we get too far, let's take a look around here. Right? So what we're seeing here, if we look at the menu, under developmental budget, we have several things here. We have budget justification, which is actually the page that we're looking at, and that's going to take you to the various different budget justification forms. We also have budget justification report, which is a report that allows you to export multiple justification forms to Excel. Then you have the budget approval report, which is going to be a listing of the different budgets along with who has approved what when. And then a department summary report, which is overall a summary report that we'll see on the budget justification form when we get to it, but will allow you to run a report across a entire department. Another thing to note here is under help, and we have resource links. These resource links are going to be very useful to you. They have not only things such as our superintendent's planning guide, but also our manuals, different forms that you may need to use if you are working with a GPM type account or one of those restricted funding accounts, and also worksheets that are associated with the different things under the FTE or non-FTEs that are required, along with the reports that were used for our operational and developmental budget reports for those salary and benefits that were used to create on the tabs as we'll get to it. Your current chart of accounts, and then also some training videos that you can watch regarding the training for this site. Okay. So on this page, since we're under budget justification, in order to get to a budget justification form, we have two drop downs here. So the first thing that we'll want to do is we're going to look for the division director that we want to pull a report for. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and pull one for Luis Batista. All right. And then under here, we actually have our workflow status. So if we wanted to take a look at everything that may be currently being worked on or has started work, we could look under in process. Okay. Now, right now, nothing has occurred yet. Nothing has been worked on there. If we had anything pending at another approval level, and again, this is similar to what our workflow is. So it would start it in process, meaning that it's begun work. Once it's been submitted, if anything that's under those restricted funds again, 012, 017, 018, and 12.0, they'll end up under GPM pending once they're submitted. Anything outside of those will just go straight to budget pending. And again, this budget pending here, once you've submitted those things, if you submit it and it's a non-GPM, or if you're a GPM approver and you've submitted it, then it's going to move to the budget pending role. And that all needs to be completed by the, excuse me, the 6th, February 6th, right? And then the rest of these, it needs to go through that approval 1 and approval 2 to be fully approved by the 20th. Okay. So let's go ahead and I'm going to undo that one so I get the listing. And then it'll be the budgets here are always going to be done by either fund and then you'll have the resource available to you. If I were to choose someone else that say has non-GPM funds, you'll see fund and then it'll be listed by location. This will be important later when we're dealing with importing different types of budgets. Okay, so under here, let's say I'm going to go under 52.110.6. Actually, I don't 52.100.6. When I choose this one, it's going to go ahead and open up my budget justification form. Now, one thing to note, if any of you are actually logging into the system and following along with exactly what I'm doing, you may have navigated to this screen and at the top it's going to say that the budget form is locked by division staff. That's just a tool that we've put in place. If someone tries to access it after someone else, then it's going to lock that page. So if you could and you're following along, please don't go exactly to the same one, because our demonstration, you may end up locking me out of it if you happen to go to it at the same time. Okay, so try to use a different one than the one I'm using. Right. So on this, the first thing that you'll notice here is that we're presented with a summary tab. So the summary is just a summary of the various tabs that we have here. We have our accounts are going to be broken down by revenue, by our FTE, by our non-FTE, by our non-salary, and any types of attachments. Now, all of the information can be found here. So we'll see our total revenue sources is listed. We have our FTE information under FTE counts, our salary and benefits, and then we have our non-salary or non-FTE salary, non-FTE benefits listed here. And then we have our operating expenses, which are going to be all of those non-salary expenses that are listed at the bottom. Okay, we have an overall impact that we're seeing here for what our budget is. Any of the attachments, if we do attach something, they'll show up down here and you can click on it and open it. And along with a workflow history of what's happened with this form as far as approvals, and if it's gone back and forth, those will all show up inside of this approval history with a name and a timestamp associated. Okay. So let's start looking into the further into this. Okay, so one of the things we could do here is that if we wanted to pull out this budget justification form and take everything to a Excel page, we could say export all. If we click export all here, it will generate an Excel download, and then we shall see it here. And we'll have this information on this page. So we'll see an overall of our summary. We'll get our revenue. We'll have our non-FTE, we'll have our FTE, our non-FTE, and then our non-salary data. Okay. If we want to export just the summary, that's just going to give us that front page, right? So it's really the same as this one. It's the same tab, but it's by itself. Some people have preferred or only needed that one, so this would give you just that page. All right, so let's go ahead and start completing our justification form. So the first thing, we're going to hit our revenue. If you do have revenue, which is going to be any of these types of, typically your restricted funding does have those type of revenue, you'll see some spaces in here actually going to be unavailable. When we're talking Fund 01.2, there are no beginning balances that are being used. So this cell is actually blocked out. If we looked at something under 017, they have the ability to use beginning balance. So this would actually be open and available for input. We'd have our projected revenue. So that's going to fill in as we fill out these fields down below. We have our estimated expenditures, which you would just put in what you are expecting your expenditures are going to look at, and then what your estimated revenue is, or what you're anticipating your income would be as of 7/1. Now you can also put in a budget line justification for this. If your area requires it, you can put this in. This is completely optional. However, the summary the summary justification for each of these tabs is usually required if there's any type of difference between our prior budget. But we'll see that more reflected in the other tabs once we get to it. So let's go ahead and say that our estimated expenditures for this one will be $150 million. Okay, through the rest of the year. So we're looking at, we still need 15,000, but let's say we expected our expected revenue to be that 15,000 through the end of the year. And let me get one more zero. So two more zeros. There you go. So we're just filling this out to just put it wherever we're going to be, and then what our expected revenue will be in the future. Used to dealing with such a large number, right? And then we can have revenue justification, okay, as needed. Okay, and this is always going to be shows up on the summary page. Okay, so one thing you'll notice on here, there's no save buttons. So as you go through the site and input data, it's going to automatically save your entries as it's moving along. Okay, if we look back at the summary, you'll see all of those amounts have been updated from what we've put in, and also that justification that we added is also now showing up on the revenue section here. Okay. So once we're done with this, then we can move on. But there's still a couple of other features here. So one thing, if we wanted to add in another revenue source, okay, we could click add, and it's going to bring up this little pop-up that we could move around if we wanted to. Okay, and then we can just select from here. Now, if you are seeing that you're missing a particular chart field element that you need, you can contact again ISS and we'll go ahead and add that. There is some other processes involved to setting up something new, so that it does have to go through our general accounting department and such. So we'll need to proceed through that, but we can add those in here as necessary. So let's say we're going to be adding something in, and let's see, we're just putting in an additional cost. And let me say this is 01. Okay, so we're going to put in what our expected revenue is. Let's say we're not going to have anything, but we're expecting it's going to have something at the next year. Okay, so we've just added that in. Okay, now you'll notice we have a couple of other new buttons here. Once we add something, that line is going to show up in blue. That means it's just a visual indicator that this is a new line. Two other icons that you'll notice is we now have a delete icon, which is the trash can, and then we also have the edit icon. So we can edit things that have been added. Okay, if we say put something in incorrectly in here, we can add it, or we can edit it using this icon. And we can delete it if we didn't intend to have that account. However, anything that was already input from the beginning, which would be any accounts that you had started off with or exist currently inside of Fin, cannot be removed. If you wanted to actually no longer fund this for the next year, or say, hey, we're not going to use this one, then you'll just look at making this 0 for the upcoming fiscal year because it's no longer going to be used in such a fashion.
George, Karen has a
Yes.
question in the chat.
Yes. Does the less expenditures through always match their projected revenue in the box? This one, does it always match? It really depends upon your area. I just put it in here as just some numbers to put in, but that's more of a call that you'll have to talk to your accounting specialist regarding those particular numbers, which should be there if you don't know. So it doesn't always have to match. Okay. Another function inside of this one is that we could export just this particular tab. So this would get into our exporting and importing actually from a spreadsheet. So if we exported this to Excel, and so we have this page here, right, which has that account string that we've put in. If we wanted to add another account string, it's as simple as if we wanted to just copy that one and then let's say, I think 551. Let me double check that I'm using a correct one. Oh, 5860. Okay. Use 60 instead. Okay, if I wanted to add another string, I can just copy that. So I just did Control C, Control V to copy that in. I don't need to put in the object code. The system's going to fill that out for me. And then I can put in what my numbers would be here. And then I could save this and then upload it. My light turned off. I'm too still in this room, sorry. Okay. So we have these numbers that we've added here. Now, one of the things to note is that the system will only append. That means that it will only add something to it. It's not going to erase. So if I got rid of this first line, out of my upload, it's not going to do anything different. Okay, and it's not going to remove it. Even this second line, I could remove that one. And let's say I only added this line, so it's just going to append and put in this additional line. So let me save it. I will go back here and I'll click import and I'll choose the file that I want. So I'll choose that file that I was working with from my downloads. Click open and then click import. Okay, so I imported that one and you see it just added that one account that it was inside of my my upload into here. And you notice I didn't add those other values and it just created them for me.
George, there's a couple of questions in the chat.
Yes. Okay, perhaps you could also read them out for me. Thank you.
Sure. So Daisy is asking, does the budget justification report no longer include FTE tab for input prior to submission?
I'm not sure I fully, does it just no longer include FTE tab? If you're talking about the exporting, when you export on a particular tab, it's only going to export that one tab. If I export off of the summary, it exports everything. However, if you're going to do an upload, you can only use the particular tabs one. So if you notice this one, it's only this one sheet. It doesn't have the rest of the tabs like that, like the summary does. So you can only upload onto one tab at a time. And we'll go through another example on a different tab. But hopefully that answers that question. You can only do it on one. And when you export from one, you only get one.
And then Evelyn is asking, when uploading files, are there any specific formatting or data input requirements for the file? So I think you went over some of those, right?
Yeah, so the format for these ones is always going to be Excel, right? So the best best practice will be that you export from the tab and just edit that particular form that you're working with and then just import it back in. You could create your own form that has all of these in the same place and it will work. But if you do have errors, it's because there's something that is not in the right spot. So the best practice would be just get this form and then use it.
And then Daisy replied back saying that she's exporting from the budget justification report for approver one.
Yeah, you can only import for one justification form at a time. You can't do it across justification forms. So if you're getting something off of that report and you're getting it for every resource, you're not going to be able to import that. It has to be done for just one particular area alone. And that's one of those things, if we look at here, if we click under import and you'll see this area that says import requirements, there are certain rules for that. Okay, so this may answer additionally some of those questions. It has to be in Excel format only. Okay. You're not going to change or add or do anything to the columns. And then the import's restricted to either the fund location or fund resource of the justification form. Meaning that if you're doing it inside of, location 5824, you can't upload something into a form that's outside of location 5824. The same with where we're looking at right now. I couldn't upload something that did not include resource 100.6. So if I went and opened up that form again, okay, if I were to change this, say to 0.7, and I wanted to upload it to this area, it will give me an error. Okay, and you'll see an error. it does give you a list of the errors, but what you'll look at here is the error log that says 301. And 301 is saying it's an invalid fund resource or fund location combination. So we can't upload if we're using something outside of the intended fund resource combination for this justification form, which is 52100.6. Does that make sense, Daisy? All right, great, thank you. Okay. All right, let's move away from there. Okay. Okay, so we've demonstrated about importing onto there, so you can update any of those costs or any of those columns. Again, best practice, just export this one, make your edits that you want, and then you can import them back in if you prefer. Doesn't really make too much sense if you're working on something that's really like this, where it's only a couple of lines. It's probably going to be faster for you just to go and add a record or just make the updates here. If you're working something, let's say like this one, which is non-salary, and you have a lot of lines, it may make more sense to pull it out and just work with the few items or to go and update it on a spreadsheet. Um, but this does have another function, and we'll get to this one. Or I can show you right now. We're going somewhat out of order, but on this one, we do have another feature when you're dealing with something like this. If you wanted to, you could just bring in the prior budget and just fill that in. So this autofill will automatically take what was your adopted budget and just fill it in inside of that proposed budget. Okay. And then that'll allow you, let's say for the most part, things are going to be the same and you're only going to be modifying a couple of areas. It allows you to quickly go through and just fix those. So let's say for this one on this line, well, we're actually going to bring this down to 40,000 instead. And then this one, we're going to bump it up to 17,000. So it just allows you very quickly to say, okay, most of it is the same. I only have a few things that I need to update. I'll just go and update those couple of items. Right. And then one thing you also don't have to worry about is that if I were to input values into here and I change them to something else, like you see this one was 17,000. If I hit the autofill again, oh, it is actually, it did override that. Okay. Okay, the override it's actually overriding. Um, so yeah, it's if you hit the autofill, it's overriding those values. So be careful with using that one. So let's go back and we're going to take a look at FTE position update. Right. So under FTE position update, this one has some different functionality involved. So when you go and look at this, you're going to be looking at a particular position and the associated costs with it. So you have your salary and benefits along with your FTE. Now, if you notice, we do know that benefits are separated into different accounts as well. There are different 3,000 accounts associated. However, the developmental budget website doesn't have 3,000s. So what's happening here is that we're just taking a lump sum of all of those budgets and putting them into just one column here. If there are changes to that or you're adding a position in, you're doing an estimation of those benefits. The budget team is going to take a closer look at that coming up after we've demonstrated how this site works. So if you can hold off your additional questions on that, they'll get to it and be able to help you answer those ones. But as far as the input is concerned, for this, to change anything regarding a position, you're really restricted to a couple of things. Okay. The first thing that you're going to want to do is choose an action. So under proposed action, you can either close or you can make a change to this. Now, if I close a position, just take a look here. This is at these values that are all set under my FTE salary benefits and proposed. Once I click on that, what it does now is it changes all those to 0 and makes my position status as C. Now, in order to save this, I'm going to need to put in a comment as well. Okay, so I'll put in just a comment here that's closed position and then click update. Now, another thing that you'll notice down at the bottom is that we have, because this is split funded between two different areas, so we'll notice that it's actually listed down here where we have it split between resource 52-100.6 and 52-120.6, and then we'll see those differences between the two. Okay. So we'll update that one, and then we'll see back on this page. Now it says, okay, this position was active, but now it's closed. If we do need to close it on the other side, so if we click on this again and we'll see this proposed action here, then it also needs to be closed on the other side underneath resource 52-120.6. Now, let's say we didn't intend to close this. How are we going to undo this? Well, we'll just hit the reset. So we hit reset, it's going to ask you, do you want to reset this back to the original data? We'll hit OK, and then now it's going to be reset back to the old data, and it's been erased. Or all the changes that we've made have been erased. Now, the other thing we can do is say change. Now, let's say we want to change this, and we're actually going to update the split on this. So let's say this is no longer going to be, split 65, but it's going to be 0.6. And then whatever updates need to happen for this. Yeah. Okay, and then 65. I do see the text in there. So just real quick, the reset is just right here, this reset button. You click on that and then it resets it. Okay, so we're going to change this. All right, so now this one is at 0.6. So we're missing that 5% or 0.5. Sorry, 0.5. 0.5 FTE. Right. So let's say I'm just going to add it into this one for simplicity, but we're going to add an additional one, an additional split to this one. So when we click add new record, you'll see we lock in an action of add. So under this action of add, then we're just going to select whatever account would be associated with this. This is 24. Just make sure I'm under the right one. 2411 and 6223. 6223. 6223. Oh, 235. I'm going to say 0.05. Okay, and then I want to attach it to this position, right? So I'm going to search for this one. So I can use any part of what we see under here for this position. I can use the position number, or I can use this to search for the position. So when I click on that, it's going to list positions available. But if I start typing in part of it, and I don't even need to include the zeros, I can just say 7503. Okay, and you see it starts to bring that up. We're able to choose this one, or I can say I want to use bilingual. Okay, Spanish, right? So I'm using that one. It's just another way of listing everything out there or searching for it. So you can use any part of the position number or the position description to go and search for the position that you want. Although you'll probably find that using position number is going to be the easiest way to filter for that one. Now, once I actually click this, okay, having filled out the rest of this, and that's an important note. You have to make sure that you have completely filled out the account and this information for your FTE and salary and benefits that you're attempting before you add the position, because once you do that, it's going to then show you, okay, here's what's associated with this one that I've chosen. And I think, did I choose the right one? Yes. Oh, I think I chose the wrong. Okay, save. Oh, I chose the wrong one because I'm actually looking at this one. Sorry, I had changed this one. I went to the second page somehow. My apologies. 6231. Again, I can 0006231 admin 0.05. Okay, and then we're going to look for that position 719229. Okay, so now we'll see that one currently has these two associated records with this, and this is what we're adding to it. So I just wanted to show you how it will link these together and give you those associated records once you've completed this information and then choose that one. Okay, then we can go ahead and save it, and then now we've got that additional piece in here that we're adding to that position. So that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is, again, using the export and import functions. So you can export that file, and we'll click here. We've opened the file and we're taking a look at this one. Again, a lot of data that we're looking at, but we can go and say, okay, we're going to, update a couple pieces of information, and we want to, let's say, add something else, right? So let's say I'm going to, let me copy this one. I don't usually normally use mouse click, but I'm going to copy, and then I'm going to insert the copied cells here. So I'm going to do this one. And let's say I want to actually change to another number. And I will put in what my proposed will be. So I'm going to lower this down to, let's see, 5. And we'll put this at 0.1. Okay. I'll do 10,000. And I don't need something like proposed costs. So I don't need these things. I don't need add any comment that I add here. I don't need any of these additional items. So I really only need this information. Whatever here is at the front, I do need this information here. I don't need position because this will automatically fill out. I just need that position number. The system will grab that. If I have an employee name, I can add that in there, but the rest of this is not needed. Okay, and then really what's important is these blue columns. So I fill that out. You know, another new count distribution. Okay, I'll add that in here. Just save the file. I'm gonna go ahead and import that one. Let me choose that file that I was doing. I'll import it. Okay, and then now it's added that additional distribution of what I've put in. So that's that additional account here, and then we've seen it's added it in here as well. Okay, and we didn't have that information for the position description, and the system added it. All right. So that's just another way of importing information. Again, you can make those changes as well. To these to the files, you saw that we also changed this from point 6 to 0.5. I didn't make any updates to these, but if we did make the updates to those would also change as well. All right. And then again, if we want to get rid of it, we use the trash can icon, or if we want to make additional edits, we can then do it on screen. So just a couple of different ways of making those edits. All right, now going over to the non-FTE tab. So the non-FTE tab has actually had quite a few updates to it. You'll notice it's quite different if you're familiar with the site from last year, but it is still a familiar face. So if you look at the FTE position update tab and you look at the non-FTE tab, they actually look quite similar, and they actually function very similar now as well. Previously, we didn't have any benefits associated with the non-FTE, so you couldn't put those in, and there was a gap where the areas weren't seeing all of the associated costs with non-FTE. So now you're able to input those, and you would input those the same as you would for the FTE tab. So again, you can hit edit on here. You'll have the same type of functionality. You can choose to close or change it, make those updates to whatever it is, and then save that information. One thing you will note is that under here, all of our non-FTE, actually, we have closed those out. So if there is something that you did want to continue, then you would just go in and you can put in that information and say, okay, I want to change this, and then I'm going to bring in, whatever I had for this. I want to continue to fund it for the next, fiscal year if that was my intention. Okay. All right. I'm just putting in some information, but again, the budget team will talk about this a little bit in more detail as to what exactly you should be doing on these screens. I'm just showing you how to input here. Okay. So if I want to do that, then I'm going to put whatever information I need to in here and then just save that, and I can continue on. All right. Again, the import and export functions are still the same. But there is one more button I haven't talked about yet, but we'll get to that once we get to through the non-salary. Okay. All right, again, on the non-salary, we did talk about that autofill function. If you want to bring all those values in, works the same way. If you wanted to export all the data and import, you can do that from Excel. Again, just go through and edit any of these items that you wish. It's going to save those as you're working through the application. And such on here. But now let's take a look at that other function. So the copy function. Each of these tabs, you'll notice on the revenue tab, FTE tab, non-FTE tab, and the non-salary tab all have this copy function. So if you wanted to copy this one particular tab to another resource, this is how you would do it. It doesn't do it for multiple tabs. It's going to have to be for one tab at a time. But let's say I wanted to take all of my FTE positions and copy them from 0.6 to 0.7, which happens a lot when you're dealing with those different types of restricted funding. You'll just hit the copy, and it's going to bring up this function that says, okay, I want to copy all this information to another fiscal grant year. But the one thing to note, if you see here, we have 5203, 5204, and 0.5 and 0.6. So on my listing, I'm going to actually see here that, well, on this listing, I actually have all of them available. Why? Because if we look over here, these have nothing, these have nothing. This has, there's nothing inside of those ones. However, if we wanted to do the copy, and let's say we're going to move these to 0.7, what this is going to do is it's going to take all these positions and copy them over to 0.7. So let's submit it. And now we've created a 52-100.7. Okay. So this is the one way that the system is going to generate a brand new resource with a new grant here is through the copy function. However, the copy function is not going to be available inside of unrestricted funds. So if you're looking at an 01.4 or 01.3, the copy function doesn't exist because you do not do these grant year changes. If you needed to move everything from one location to another, that's another story, and you're going to then have to zero out everything from there and bring it over somewhere else. But that is more unusual that you're going to do that type of an action. Okay. But you'll notice here it's created, it's brought everything over, all of my FTE stuff, but my revenue, my non-FTE, and my non-salary are all still blank. But I do have these FTE positions. And you'll see here it says we automatically add an action. So it says GYC add. That stands for grant year change add. Okay, so all these positions are coming over because we've done a grant year change and we've added them from the prior one, and we automatically add a comment that says, okay, position added due to grant year change. If we take a look back at 0.6, we'll see under the FTE position update that it says grant year change close. Okay, so these are different from the actions that if you looked under non-FTE where it says something has changed or something, if we were to say like close, and I understand it is closed and we're closing it, but it would say close here. These ones, when we use this copy function, we're just given a different type of action associated with it, so we can recognize that this has been closed because we're moving it somewhere else. Okay. All right. So if we did want to bring in everything from the other one, then we'll just have to actually run each of these. So we'll run a copy and say, hey, we're going to bring this to 0.7, submit it. Okay. And then if we wanted to, again, get the non-FTE, we're going to copy this and go over there. So there is a little bit of work involved with moving everything, but it's a few clicks and you've moved everything over from one place to the other. Now, all of these things are going to say that they're all closing out here. These have all closed out. These will want to actually zero out because we're closing this stuff. So the position stuff is actually doing a function of close, but these ones, when we move them or copy them over, it's copying over the account strings themselves. But if you want to actually put in a new value, because again, this is a brand new account string once you've changed the grant year. So it didn't have any funding beforehand, so it's going to have all new funding with the other one. Another way that you could do this, if you didn't want to go through this entire thing, real quick, easy way of doing that, and I think this answers the other question that I do see in the chat. If you wanted to pull everything from another one, use the export. So we're going to export this, okay, and I'm doing the non-salary. So I have all of these. And let's say I want to bring in all of these values that I've had here over to here. So rather than use the copy function, I'm going to actually do an import, right? So I'll say, I want to bring in all of this stuff, but because again, remember, I'm restricted to this 52100.7, so I'll need to change this to 0.7, okay? And if I just do, I'm doing Shift Control down to select the entire column, and then I'll do a Control D, okay, the letter D. And what that does is it copies all the values in Excel. It copies all those values from my first value all the way down. Okay, so again, that is, okay, I changed this. So I'm selecting the second cell, the Control Shift at the same time, and then hit the down arrow. It's going to select the entire column. Then I'll hit Control and the D key, and now it's copied all of those values. Okay, quick, just Excel shortcut if you haven't used this one before, but it makes it easy to copy all of those values. Okay, I'm going to save it. save this document, and then I can go ahead and import it into this one. So I'll choose that file that I did and then import it, and then bam. Now I have all of my account strings or all of my values from Excel, and now I easily have it brought over to this one. Okay. So this would be kind of the same thing when you're trying to copy everything from one justification to another. You would kind of use this concept of just updating the values for whatever value needs to be updated to get it into that other budget justification form. Okay, because I see the question is, how do we move an entire location to a new approver? Okay, so that's one thing. So if we want to move the entire location under a new approver, so you're saying that this fund, right, this fund resource no longer would go under Luis Batista. That's where you're going to contact us. You contact internal system support, iss@lacoe.edu, and then we're going to make the update for you. Okay. Again, too, if you run into a situation where you have a brand new location, you know, so let's say under here, you're saying, hey, we're adding location 1503, right? It doesn't exist right now, and we want to add it. So you would contact us, and then we'll add it for you. Okay, so that's the only way. You can't add it yourself. You just have to contact us, and we're on it. We'll get to it pretty quickly. All right. Okay. All right. So let's take a look. Let's get back to here. All right. So we've gone over most of the main functions of the site. So we've talked about the various different tabs that are here. We've talked about how to do an export and an import into the website, all the different functions. Now, the last thing that we want to take a look at is putting an attachment. Okay. There are two different types of attachments that you can put in. This year, if you remember previously, you can only do PDFs. This year, we also are allowing Excel files, and the budget team will talk about why that is. But if you want to upload a file, you would just say choose a file. I'll grab that Excel file that I was using and just say upload it. Okay. So now I've uploaded that to the system. And then if we go back to the summary tab, as we've discussed, you go through and it starts to, it's updating all that information that we've put in. And then you'll also see that attachment at the bottom that we can click on, and then it's going to show up. Excel files will download, and then you'll need to open it inside of your viewer. But if you did attach, say, a PDF file, let's say this, then that one will show up under the PDF. Okay, maybe there may be a problem with that particular form, but I'll take a look if there's any issue with that for getting it read. Okay. All right. Now, once this is done, let's say you've completed everything that you needed to on here, and you're ready to submit this to start the workflow approval process. Okay, so I'm just going to go to the bottom here. At this point, a comment is optional. I can add a comment in here, but this is an optional comment. Okay, and I know this is going to create an error. Why do you say? Well, we'll see here in a minute, okay, or in a second. So let's hit submit. All right, so we hit submit, and then we're saying, oh, justification summary is required for non-FTE, right? So why is that? So if we look at the non-FTE, okay, we actually have something here that says there is a difference, right? Okay, so we need to go over and say we need a summary justification, all right? Non-FTE, you need that summary justification, okay? And then if we have non-salary, there's a difference in our budget here, we also need to say, okay. Right. Once we fill these out, okay, we've got these in here, then we'll be able to go ahead and submit this for approval, right? So once we've done that, it's been submitted and then it's gone on to the next person. You'll see that it's been sent over to the next approver in line. In this case, it's Anthony Zoe to get approval. And then we'll see that the status has been updated to GPM pending. Again, if we look over here, GPM, so that's a GPM pending, and you're done at this point. Okay, so now it's in the hands of GPM to work on. If they do send it back to you, then you'll be able to go in and make updates and get information such as you need to. Right. If you do need a workflow reset, you'll need to contact the budget group. Okay, so that's here. If you happen to send it off accidentally and need it reset, then email the budget unit, budget@lacoe.edu. They can perform a reset for you. Or you could contact Anthony at this point or whomever it was sent to and say, hey, I didn't mean to send it. Can you go ahead and reject it? Then they can reject it and send it back to you as well. Okay, so two different ways you can go about getting something sent back. All right. Now, the last couple things that we want to take a look at is some of those reports. All right. So someone did mention the reports before, but under budget justification report, if we wanted to pull information across multiple departments. Now, there's one important thing to note regarding your role as division staff, is that when you do an export from this area under the budget justification report, you are going to be missing one tile or one tab. So let's go ahead and look at which one that is. So let's say I wanted to pull everything from Louis Batista that we're taking a look. Now we could say we want to see everything under particular workflow status. This actually works really great if we wanted to take a look at everything that has no activity, right? Stuff that still needs to be looked at, or even things that are in process. We'll still be able to see this. You'll see on the export that it will show these different statuses as well, but let's go ahead and just pull this one. So we'll hit export to Excel. It's going to download that again to Excel. But you'll notice it's missing one tab, which is that FTE information. So as a division submitter, you can't run a full report that's also going to pull the FTE. That's just the decision regarding some sensitivity regarding positions that may have closures and such, especially once notices are going out. If there happen to be any type of, anticipated risks, those are just suppressed from this report. However, if your administrator is looking for that information, they can log into the site if they are an approver, run this same report, and they will have that tab available to them. So if they're looking for it, just let them know, hey, can log into the site and go to the budget justification report and download it. They'll be able to see that information. Then if they wish to share that information with you, that's a different story. But as the division submitters, you're unable to see that. But what you do see here on this report is it doesn't also have the summary tab, but it does give you the other tabs that are here. So you have all of your non-salary, non-FTE, and your revenue tabs. And then you'll also see things that were submitted. You do have that information here where it says things that where it is inside of the workflow at that point. Another report to take a look at is our budget approval report. And again, this is going to be, if we're looking at let's see, not the budget approval, I want to look at Louis, okay? And I search for this one. This will give me a little preview of what the information would be, but it's showing me who submitted what and when. So we can see this one, was submitted out. We can export that to Excel. And then we will see that information here that these things were all submitted at what time. Okay. And then the last thing to take a look at is the department summary report. So we can look at it by department. So let's say we wanted to look at all of, let's say Head Start, or if we wanted again, we're looking under Luis Batista. So we can hit that export to Excel. These reports take a little bit longer because there's some additional formatting involved with it and calculations. But what this does is gives us an overall of each of the summary tabs, and it puts them all together on one page and then gives us an overall total at the bottom. So let's see, once this completes running, it may take, I don't know, 10 to 30 seconds for it to run. Okay, and then once we're finished with this, then I'm going to turn it over to the budget group to walk you through some of the things that they wish for you to be aware of. Any other questions at this point? You can reach on the tab or raise your hand. Okay, great. All right. So this report, just like I was saying, will give you basically the summary tabs from every justification form that's associated with the filters that we've chosen. And at the very bottom, give you an overall running total of everything that is inside of this particular report. So that's why it takes a little bit longer. There's more calculations involved with building that report. Okay. So at this time, I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to the budget area if they would like to take control of the screen.
Yes,
And
thank
we
you.
can go from there. Okay, thank you.
Yes, let me share my screen. Hi everyone. I was looking at the attendee list and I think I've gotten to work with like 99% of you so far. And if I haven't, you'll probably be hearing from me in the next 8 weeks if you are making updates to FTEs. So good morning, budgets team. Just wanted to give some tips and pointers for everyone in regards to entering FTE and non-FTE into the developmental budget. I'm going to be going over FTE while Amanda will follow up with non-FTE. Okay. So the first thing I wanted to mention was that for closing split funded positions, when closing them, please make sure it's closed under all budget documents related to the position. In this example, you'll see that this FTE is split between two budget documents, therefore it must be closed under both. Please also make sure that the same comment is noted for every line that pertains to a certain position. In this example, you'll see that the notation of the closure and which budget documents the position is being closed under are included for both budget lines. In regards to new positions, please note that the position number will be assigned by the developmental budget website. If a new position is split funded, please make sure you use the same new position number for all budget documents. Also, in the comment sections, please include the step, title description, title code, relevant notes, and funding sources. For this example, in this situation, the unit is proposing a new admin services manager, and they reference a position that is being closed to help fund this position, as well as noting the two funding sources. And I did want to add that all new positions should be budgeted at step 2, as well as vacancies. And I just wanted to let everyone know that if you had a chance to look at your FTE, you'll notice that vacancies were imported at step 5. But I wanted to let you all know that ISS will be doing a backend update to update those salaries to step 2. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, George, in regards to those updates or when they will happen.
No, but we'll be updating it as soon as possible, but it may take a day or two before you see it.
Yeah, just wanted to make everyone aware of that. Let's see. So for new positions, we wanted to note that salary and benefit breakdown files are required to be uploaded to budget documents. And these two files shown on the screen can be used for this purpose and are found under resource links. I'll go into further detail on these two files in the following slides. So the first file is the employee benefits detail package, which can be used by everyone for calculating the benefits breakdown. And shown below is the benefits breakdown for a budget analyst. This is an example of the required Excel upload for new positions. So this is the FTE position salary and benefits cost projection summary. And like I said, this is a required upload for new positions. And you will see that we have entered the salary and benefits breakdown calculated with the previous spreadsheet. I just want to note that LDPR code is an optional field. We do not expect you to know or request new LDPR codes for positions in the developmental budget. This will be completely handled by budget team. So don't worry about LDPR codes at all when working on your FTE documents. Number 3 is modifications. So in this case, position number 73818 will be split from one funding source to 2 in the next fiscal year. For modifications, we ask that the split be documented in the comment section and that a comment is listed for every budget line pertaining to this position. For example, in the first budget document, we commented that the position is changing from 1 FTE to 0.25 FTE. And then in the second budget document, we noted that the position is increasing from 0 to 0.75. And both comments include the total allocations totaling to 100%. And these are some important reminders that I find myself having a lot of discussions with people that are submitting FTE documents. So as a friendly reminder for new classified positions, please remember that an approved PC memo is required. And if not, the budget document will be sent back. And for new certificated positions, an approved memo signed by cabinet and the CFO is required. For closed positions with active incumbents, please remember that a RIF form must be submitted to HRS. And just to bring up the new positions, again, new positions will be budgeted at step 2. And then also LDPR codes, that will be completely handled by budget staff. No need to worry about that. I think I saw a question come in. Whoa. Evelyn asked, or Daisy asked,
I
just
think
confirming.
Daisy,
Yeah, just confirming step 2 for vacancies since it's, yes, this is a new development. So this just happened today that they decided to budget at step 2 for vacancies and new positions. So that's a totally new development. I will check with our FOTL to see if we'll be updating the superintendent's budget guide for you. I'm pretty sure we will be. And then Evelyn asked if we don't have a PC memo for new positions by the time the budget needs to be submitted, do we move those positions to non-salary? Yes, exactly. Same process as last year. So if you don't have the PC memo by the time the budget documents need to be submitted, you will need to allocate those funds under 5880 in the non-salary tab, same as what happened last year. And then there's not any other more questions regarding FTE. So Evelyn asked, can we opt to project that step 5? So you can opt to project that step 5, you can justify it. So for example, you can justify a certain employee will be filling a position and they're due to, HRS rules, they're guaranteed step 5 due to their previous salary, then that's totally allowable. You just have to justify a higher projection. And then if there's not any other questions, I will pass it on to Amanda, who will be going over some new updates to non-FTE.
Okay, looks like we have no other questions, so I will go ahead and move on with non-FTE updates. So good morning, my name is Amanda Flores. I'm a limited term budget analyst, and I'll be going over a few key reminders and updates for non-FTE. So for positions that are required on an as-needed basis, these temporary positions are considered non-full-time equivalent or non-FTE, and they are calculated based on pool of dollars, and due to the HCM system, they need to be identified as one of the following relationships for employee assignments for a position control. So there's the one-to-one relationship, which is majority of these temporary positions. So it means that there can only be one employee per assignment or position number. So for example, professional experts, LACOE retirees, music teachers, and many other positions. The other type of relationship is one-to-many. And these are limited to only 3 types of positions, which are substitute positions, student workers, and certificated contract consultants. And that means that multiple employees can share an assignment/position number. So if you're unsure what position titles belong to either one-to-one or one-to-many, you can reference the fiscal year 2026-27 non-FTE position benefit cost projection workbook for the full list. So there it will display the position titles and their corresponding relationship in the non-FTE position title list. So you'll see the position titles here in the long description, and then what their relationship is if they are considered one-to-one or one-to-many. An important update regarding professional experts. As of 8/7/2025, professional expert positions are no longer have the position titles with the numbers. So like admin specialist 1, 2, 3, etc. They now have generic titles. So you must use those generic titles and their corresponding title codes. So for administrative specialist, it would be LAC 046. And you can refer to the updated salary schedule P on the LACOE website. Also, when you're updating or adding these positions to your non-FTE tab, please specify what step you will be projecting the salary at in the comments so that we can validate those amounts in our review along with the estimated hours that they will be working so we can validate the salary amounts. Another important change, as George mentioned, is the way that the non-FTE tab is displayed. So now it'll be very similar to the FTE tab. So you'll see the proposed salary and of course the proposed benefits amounts. And so you can update those now. They will no longer be in the non-salary tab for benefits. And all non-FTE positions will have the proposed position status as C for closed. So as George showed, those can be reactivated and they'll change to A for active. And you can use the following 2 files to help you you can use the salary and benefits breakdown, which is required for all non-FTE positions. So you can use these 2 files down here for your projections and workbook. So these are the 2 files kind of just in a more illustrative way. So this is the workbook and it has a couple tabs in here. It has like the procedures, the salary and benefit projection calculator that you can use. And the summary here is just an example to use. It is not where you will actually be updating your information. So just keep that in mind for the workbook. And then again, as I mentioned, that non-FTE position title list will be there in the workbook. In this separate file is the actual summary file that you will need to attach to your non-FTE tab. So this is the actual list with the salary and benefits breakdown that we will need to see in order to review your document, your budget document. So as I mentioned, there are 2 types of relationships. So I'm going to go into the non-FTE one-to-one relationships and how to project the salary and benefits. So you will use the workbook, as I mentioned, and the summary files. So in the workbook, there is the non-FTE salary and benefit projection tab, where you can calculate the position benefit costs based on the projected salary amounts for each position. Again, these are one-to-one, so you will need to project for each position. And then once you have those projected amounts, you can then go ahead and add that to that summary file that I mentioned to list the proposed salary total, the proposed benefits total, and the benefits breakdown for each position. So for example, if you are going to be hiring 5 admin specialists, we will need to see 5 lines for each of those admin specialists for each of their salary and benefits breakdowns. So once you've updated the developmental budget with that information, then you can attach that summary file to your budget document in the attachments tab. And if we do not see that summary file, your budget document will be assigned back to you. So again, that is a required attachment. And this is just an illustrative example of the different steps that I just went over. So again, this is kind of what it will look like. So if you're doing an education specialist, you'll look for that position title. You'll enter in that proposed salary cost. It will then calculate the benefits for you, and it will show you the total for the benefit costs as well. So then you can go ahead and plug those numbers in. And again, we do want to see that benefits breakdown, and then you can update that information into the developmental budget and then attach that summary file here. Let's see.
Amanda, there's a question from Michelle. So she's
Okay.
asking if they'll be using the non-FTE tab for substitute positions and overtime.
Amanda, I
Yes,
can
those are
go
considered.
ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, so for substitute positions, Michelle, they will be included in non-FTE. Overtime, it depends what kind of overtime we're talking about. If we're talking about additional hours for certificated staff, such as teachers and counselors, yes, you will use non-FTE, as well as for paraeducators and educational behavioral technicians. So all certificated extra duty and additional hours that are assigned non-FTE position numbers will be included in the non-FTE tab. Normal overtime for classified positions will not, because those do not get assigned non-FTE position numbers.
Perfect. Thank you, Roberto. And then to just add to that, in the comment sections, please note any important information. So if you're hiring professional experts and you know who the employee is going to be, please list their names along with the expected number of hours they'll be working. For non-FTE teachers, please specify the assignment. So they usually have their primary teaching assignment and then their non-teaching assignments. So please specify which is which, just so we can validate that information. Okay, thank you. So I'll move on to the next slide. So as I mentioned, there's the one-to-many relationship as well. And essentially, the steps are the same as the non-FTE. The only difference is because this one position can hold many many employees. We are asking that you input the amounts as lump sum, so lump sum salary and benefits, because again, these positions can share they share a position number and LDPR code, but they can have many employees. So you'll still use the workbook to calculate the lump sum benefits based on the lump sum projected salary amounts for each position that shares a position number and LDPR code. And then again, you'll plug in those amounts into the summary file, and then you can update the developmental budget website for each position's lump sum salary and benefit amounts, and then attach that document to your budget. Attach that file to your budget document. So for example, if you are going to have, let's say, a certificated contract consultant position that may have 20 employees, you will go ahead and input that lump sum salary amount. Let's say you're doing 50,000 for these 20 employees. This would only be considered one line. So you would input that 50,000, and then it will generate the lump sum benefit amounts that you would put in your summary file. So instead of like the one-to-one where you put the 5 lines, this would only be one line for that specific position / assignment. So I hope that makes sense. If it's confusing, please let me know. But in the illustration here, it's just kind of going over what I just mentioned. So again, if you'll look for the position title, certificated contract consultant, if you're going to be doing, let's say, $50,000 for this assignment, then you'll go ahead and list that amount. It will then generate, of course, the benefits. These are considered like the lump sum amounts. So again, you'll see it's just one line, which again can have, let's say, 20 employees, but because they're considered pool of dollars, it's going to be a lump sum amount. And then again, just going through and updating the developmental budget, and then again, the attachments tab. And lastly, a final note I want to add, if your budget document requires a correction or update, we will be calling and meeting with you to walk you through the update together. And after the changes are made, then you will sign the document back to us. And this is a new procedure that we're going to implement this year for any of the tabs, so FTE, non-FTE, non-salary, anything like that, to ensure that we can see what changes you make in real time. And this is to help avoid any confusion in our review process. Oftentimes it'll come back and we don't know what changes were really made. So this just helps ensure that we see the change to lessen the confusion. And that concludes our presentation. So if you have any questions, if you don't feel comfortable asking here, feel free to email us at budget@lacoe.edu and we will get back to you as soon as possible.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add that, we're a small but mighty team. There's 5 of us reviewing all of these budget documents, but always feel free to, call, chat us in Teams or email us if you have any questions or concerns. We're always trying to help everyone as soon as possible because we all want these budget documents submitted in on time.
Okay, great. Thank you, Amanda and Roberto. So let me just share back here again. So again, we're kind of winding down on this, but just in conclusion, if you do need to again look at additional resources, you can look at the laco.edu/ISS where you're going to find a lot of those things. Those other resources you will find underneath the resource links area. And again, if you are having any help that you need, you can reach out to iss@laco.edu regarding help with the website. If you need help with the VPN to get access to the site, you're going to email the help desk at laco.edu. And then if you need help with your budgets, you can reach out to budget@laco.edu. So we're not ending just yet. We will want to take additional questions and anything else that you would like to review at this point. So now we're going to open it up to the rest of you, and we can answer and look at additional questions that you may have. So I see Maritza Torres. I'll go ahead and open your mic, and if you want to ask a question. So you can unmute yourself and go ahead and ask.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Can you repeat when the submitter's deadline is to submit the budget?
Sure. So here's those important dates again on your screen. So everything needs to be submitted if they are restricted funds by the 20th, and everything needs to be submitted to the budget group by February 6th. Okay. Any other questions? Yes, Evelyn. Let me go ahead and unmute you.
Oh, and George, I just wanted to point out these important dates are also on the bulletin board on the Developmental Budget website. So if you go directly through the URL, you'll see those before you log in.
Correct. Yes, thank you. Yes, go ahead, Evelyn.
Oh,
you can unmute your microphone. Oh, yes.
sorry, I just wanted to mention too that I didn't hear anyone mention about the office hours that will be offered. Those are also on the bulletin board. I don't know if you want to go over that, George.
Sure. So she's talking about here, if we go to developmental budget. Okay. So here, if you look here and at the bottom, you will see their office hours along with the meeting that you can join here. So those are happening on the 21st, the 27th, and then February 2nd and February 6th. Okay. If you would like to receive an invite, just reach out to ISS and then we can send those invites to you. Okay, yes, go ahead, Evelyn.
Hi, yes, I have a question, and I think this is for budgets. For the increase, the 3% increase for next year, how do we account for that so it doesn't look like we're just increasing our budget? Or are we going to be given that information, or is it going to be adjusted? How is that going to work?
All the FTE already accounts for the increase in for the additional 3% for next year. So you should already see that reflected in the salary that was imported.
No, right. But when we look back to see like if we like, is that not going to affect like looking like we're doing an increase, even though we're not really adding anything?
Oh, I see where you're saying it's gonna show an increase even though it's due to the COLA,
Right.
right? Oh, I think everyone's aware. Like all the higher ups are aware of that. So I wouldn't worry about it yet, but I can double check with Lois and fill you in.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any other questions? And that's okay if you can't think of the question now. Again, we're available through email. Okay. So let me pull that up again. Where did my presentation go? All right. So if we go back here, oh, my presentation. I went too fast. So here. Okay. Again, if you are in need with any assistance after this, feel free to send us an email, and then we'll be able to assist you. Yeah. Yes, Maritza.
Regarding the vacant positions, did you say that right now it is budgeted as step 5?
Correct.
Okay, so whatever I see here is going to be lower than
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
And because
That'll be updated as soon as we can. Yeah.
we do have a recruitment going on right now, so the position does show as vacant, but we anticipate it will be filled within this fiscal year.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if the position will be higher at step 2 or higher than step 2.
Robert or Amanda, do you have any advice?
Yeah, so do you know who will be filling it, or you're not
Not
sure yet?
yet. We
So then
anticipate on getting the list this month and doing the hiring next month.
okay, so if you don't receive the list before the documents due, I would recommend going off of what you currently know, which is that it's an existing vacancy at 2.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And I do see a question regarding where can we find the recording. The recording will be available under that resource links. It'll also be available at the lacoe.edu/ISS under the, and let's see, let me just show you. Okay. So lacoe.edu/ISS. Okay. And interesting. This does work, honestly. Okay, there we go. So here, and then you can look under training videos, and we will be updating a training video with that, which will be under Developmental Budget Web App. Okay, so this will be one place you can find it. The other will be on the website itself under Help and Resource Links, and we'll just be updating this video link here as well. All right. Okay, yes, Daisy? I think, let me see, allow Mike. Go ahead, you can unmute yourself now.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm for with budget team for the COLA. So I'm assuming it's only applying to LACOE and the management since SEIU hasn't finalized the COLA for 25, 26, and 26, 27.
It wasn't applied to SEIU. It was not.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Then we'll go ahead and give you back the rest of your time, and we'll end this now. Let me stop the recording. Let's see, where's our stop? All right, and